This proven 4-step blueprint is helping thousands of beginners learn their piano scales insanely fast. It only works if you do all 4 steps in order and don't make the big beginner mistake I'll talk about at the end of the video. And we'll also talk about what's a good speed to shoot for as a beginner, intermediate, and advanced player. Let's get started. All right, step 1 is to develop perfect accuracy so we can set you up with a solid scale foundation. So let's take our C major scale, which is these notes played with these finger numbers. Now, most beginners try to learn this entire thing at once, which is not a smart way to learn. Instead, we're just going to take the first 2 notes and play them 4 times. 3, 4. Then we take the first 3 notes and practice 4 times. Focus on perfect consistency like a robot. Now we take the first 4 notes, but this is where it starts to get a little bit tricky. So you'll notice we play 1, 2, 3, and then we go back to our thumb on the 4th note of the scale. This is the trickiest part of the scale, so focus here because we're gonna revisit this in step number 2. So practice the first 4 notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 times each. Then we practice the first 5 notes, repeat it 4 times, then the 6 notes, then 7 notes, and finally the entire scale 4 times each. Now we're not done with this step just yet because we still have to come down the scale and add in our left hand. So coming down, the process is exactly the same. So we'll take the first 2 notes, practice 4 times, then first 3 notes, 4 times, then the first 4 notes, and so on and so forth all the way down the scale. 4 times each. Now for the left hand, it actually uses the exact same notes, except number 1, we start down here on this C, and number 2, we're gonna use these fingerings. But the process is still the same. We take the first 2 notes, then the first 3 notes, then the first 4 notes, all the way up the scale 4 times each. And then repeat the same process going back down. All right, so before we move on to flow to get your scale sounding nice and smooth, you're definitely gonna wanna grab the cheat sheet that has all of the scales and fingerings for each one. It's gonna be super helpful for the rest of the video. So click the link, enter your name and email, and you can get your cheat sheet here. All right, on to step 2, building flow. And it's very important you drill in solid flow before you solidify your scale so you don't solidify bad habits into your finger. So if you're smart, you may have noticed the first 3 notes of the scale are pretty easy. And the last 5 notes are pretty easy as well. The hard part is the transition between these 2 parts. So a lot of beginners sound something like this, where it gets choppy and amateur sounding right at that transition point. So to solve this, notice what I do with my thumb. I play my thumb, and then as I play my 2nd and 3rd finger, I tuck my thumb under. Watch that again. So my thumb, if I move my hand, is already above this 4th note of the scale. So to practice this, let's break it down again and play just the first 2 notes, but this time practice tucking your thumb under at the same time. So 1, tuck, 1, tuck. Practice that 4 times. Then just like before, we do the first 3 notes with the thumb tuck as well. 1, tuck, 3. Repeat that 4 times. And finally, the first 4 notes. So 1, tuck, 3, 4. And now you'll have your scale sounding nice and smooth, and we'll have a solid foundation to solidify. Now, of course, your left hand is exactly the same, except the thumb tuck happens going down the scale. So again, we would do 1, tuck, 4 times, then 1, tuck, 3, 4 times, and then finally 1, tuck, 3, 4. All right, on to step 3 to solidify this foundation we built deep into our muscle memory. And for that, we're gonna use the 4 power rhythms. First, we're gonna play the scale using the rhythm long, short, long, short. So long, short, long, short, long, short, long, short. and repeat 4 times. Then we take rhythm number 2, short, long, short, long, short, long, short, long. Repeat 4 times. Then rhythm number 3, long, short, 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 long, short, short, short. Repeat 4 times. And finally, rhythm number 4, short, 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 long, short, 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 long. And repeat that 4 times. And of course, work the exact same process working down the scale and with your left hand as well. All right, now on to the fun part, adding speed. And we'll also talk about what's a good speed to shoot for as a beginner, intermediate, and advanced player. And trust me, this is gonna be a lot easier now that we've built you up with a solid foundation. All right, so first we're gonna head over to Google and type in Metronome. And we're gonna set it to a speed of 70. And we're gonna play a note from the scale on each click. And you're gonna practice that 4 times. All right, then we bump up the speed to 80 and it gets just a little bit faster. And do that 4 times. And then you gradually increase the speed to 90, then 100, and so on, repeating 4 times each until you hit 130 BPM. Now 130 is the benchmark to hit for beginner players, and it sounds like this. For intermediate players, the benchmark is still 130, but we're gonna play 2 notes per click. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Then for advanced players, it's again a speed of 130, but we have 4 notes per click. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now you can get there only if you avoid the big beginner mistake. And there's actually 2 mistakes here. Number 1, because of how learning imprints onto our brain, you don't want to learn more than 1 scale at the same time. Instead, get 1 scale drilled in and then move on to the next one. Otherwise, you're going to cross your wires and confuse your brain. And number 2, there's a specific order you want to learn your scales in. I won't get into all the science behind it, but it's the same order that 95% of teachers teach because it simply works. Now the correct order is laid out right on the cheat sheet for you, which is why it's so important to pick that up. But one more thing I have to tell you. So this 4-step formula is great for learning scales right, but scales is only one piece of the puzzle. This video will go over a bulletproof daily practice routine to drill in every dimension of piano correctly and make sure you're not missing out on any critical aspect that could hinder your learning in the long run. So click here and watch that now, and I'll see you there.